Here I am in the 2022 Mazda CX-9 Signature. This second generation Mazda CX-9 has been out for 6 years now. Despite that, Mazda sold a record number of CX-9s for a single year just last year. So in today's review, we're gonna figure out why the CX-9 from Mazda is aging so gracefully. Probably the biggest factor why the CX-9 had a record year last year is the looks have just aged really well. Mazda's vehicles in general just have gorgeous designs for the past 6 years or so. And the CX-9 came out just as Mazda was developing its new identity away from Ford when they broke away in about 2008. And 2011 is where this platform came from, the Skyactiv platform. So built from the ground up, a little bit lighter than the old platforms, more rigid, handles better, more flexibility. Pretty much all the Mazda vehicles are built on a similar platform now. And so the Skyactiv design has just held up so well since the inception of the second generation CX-9 in 2016. And at the end of this video, we'll talk about what's to come after the second generation CX-9. And this is actually the last CX-9 as Mazda moves away from that sort of nomenclature with new technology in the next year or so. Anyways, back to this vehicle. Once you're done admiring the looks on the outside, you get on the inside and you're immediately greeted in this particular model with a very attractive parchment interior. Last year I reviewed the CX-9 as well, and it had god-awful brown interior. It just was gross. I couldn't stand it. The design on the seats is excellent in the signature trim. Love the stitching, love the comfort and the snap of leather. Unfortunately, this seat doesn't have thigh extension and they're very short. I feel like I'm in like a CX-5 seat in terms of size. So that's unfortunate in this largest SUV for Mazda. The seats are kind of small. I do enjoy the wood trim in the center console and on the doors. Unfortunately, it's underused because Mazda uses a lot of chrome in here, which blinds you. They use a lot of black plastic as well around the window switches and around the shifter here. And then you have this diamond plated silver trim around the vents and in the center view of the front passengers, and it just doesn't meld well in this vehicle. Steering wheel is of excellent comfort. It is heated in the Signature as well as heated and ventilated seats, and these might have the best ventilated seats I've ever tested in a vehicle. Very impressive. And although we have great knobs and buttons for fan control and the heating and cooling system in here, the fans are just so obnoxiously loud. Luckily, it's winter time here in South Florida, but the fans are just so loud in this vehicle. You can even hear them at the lowest setting. So that's unfortunate, and that's one of the things that is kind of separating Mazda from the Ultra level of comfort, is just the sophistication of the small details. And it seems like Mazda has smoothed out its seat motors. That's one of the gripes I've had in the past, not only the CX-9, but the Mazda 6 and a lot of the other vehicles, is that when you slid the seat around, you felt like you're being jolted. It looks like Mazda smoothed that out and taken that one small step forward with smooth seats as a premium brand. Now we're gonna do a roundabout here, and this is one of my favorite things about this large SUV, is that the steering feel is very firm and excellent. Ride quality is good. We're gonna go over some bricks here. Handles it real damped well. It's quiet as you go over unbroken or unsmooth pavement. As we get into the brakes, lots of travel in the brake pedal. Takes a lot. It feels like the brakes are working extra hard to get this big vehicle to a stop. But back on the interior, we have this 12-inch screen, which is gorgeous, high resolution, looks great. Unfortunately, still tied to the old Mazda software, which I'm so used to at this point. I'm efficient at it, but it's all tied to the rotary dial. There's no touchscreen interface in here, so everything's done through the rotary dial. Luckily, the volume knob is right next to it, and also, unfortunately, there's no button in here to go to your next preset. So you have to click the note, and then you twist the rotary dial, which brings up all of your presets, and then you have to select your preset, your next preset. Even if it's the next preset over, you have to still use a rotary dial. It's like a 3-step process instead of just pressing a simple button. And you'd think the buttons on the steering wheel here would do it. The only functionality I've found out of these forward and back buttons on the steering wheel is to fast forward or rewind live SiriusXM radio. big disappointment with the functionality of the radio, but the Bose sound system in here sounds amazing. I love how the subwoofer is also tucked in inside of the spare tire. Yes, there's a spare tire in here. It's great to have a spare tire nowadays, as vehicles have a ton of luxury vehicles don't even come with them. So, and also when I have Android Auto plugged in, when I press the navigation button, in some vehicles it actually will take me the navigation of the Android Auto. Unfortunately, it uses the ugly and not as functional navigation that's built into this vehicle. So I have to press the home button and swipe over, essentially press over on this rotary dial to get back to Android Auto. Blind spot monitor works great in here, and it integrates into the heads-up display really well. Heads-up display in here is pretty good. It's not as modern as a lot of other ones, but as this vehicle is about 6 years old at this point, and still does a really good job. And it does vibrate a little bit when you're pumping the tunes through the Bose system. It kind of dances around and I love it. It kind of adds a little bit of character to the heads-up display. Now we're talking about a large SUV. I got to bring up the second and third row. Is this Lexus they honked at me. Oh man, you guys saw that on camera. So anyways, the second and third row of this vehicle is a little bit cramped. Even though I have captain's chairs here, it's kind of hard to get kids into the back seat, especially if there are car seats plugged into them. You can't simply just fold them forward. So they kind of climb through the armrest area of the captain's chairs to get in the third row. I didn't do a family review like I did last year with this CX-9, and the reason is just it's a lot of work to put kids in and out of this vehicle, especially small kids like I have. So I opted not to do that. If you want to see my family review from last year, check that out. In this Signature, you do have heated outboard seats in the back row. You do have USBs in the armrest there. You do have climate control. So it is well appointed in the back seat. In the third row, there are no vents. There are USBs back there, which is kind of surprising, as this vehicle is, like I said, about 6 years old as we know it. Headroom in that third row is very limited, and I wouldn't recommend putting people over 5'5" probably in that back row. The cargo capacity is good enough. Most people are going to have that third row folded down so they can maximize their cargo capacity. But for my family usage, as I found out last year, I was filling up the cargo space with all my kids in here when I went grocery shopping. And so I had to put like water and other groceries in the second row seating where people's legs would be if they weren't small children. Now, I won't be able to stretch the legs of the 2.5 liter Skyactiv G turbos. I have a Yaris in front of me, but just know that the torque, over 300 pound-feet of torque, and the Skyactiv turbo, amazing. It's so great for town driving and even passing people on the interstate. I rarely push the engine past like 3,000 RPM because it is just so low down power. And I have no pro. That Yaris is getting out. It's jumping this Santa Fe next to me. 6-speed automatic is underwhelming, at least when it comes to stats, but I love this 6-speed Mazda Skyactiv automatics. They're phenomenal. I love how they shift. They're very responsive. They don't gear hunt like a lot of the like 8 and 9, 10-speed automatics that you see out on the market. So I'll take a 6-speed any day of the week, even if I have to give up a couple MPGs to get a more direct driving experience. So if I just hammer down, it's gone. Like, the torque is there and it just surges forward. Speaking of miles per gallon, I'm getting about 21 miles per gallon. It's all city, a lot of idling in there as well. I was actually expecting a little bit worse. So the fact that I'm getting 21 MPGs, just keeping up with traffic, doing a lot of idling with photo shoots, sitting in car line to pick up my kids, things like that. So even though Mazda sold a record amount of CX-9s last year, it's in the mid 30s. Their biggest rivals, like the Pilot, like the Highlander, even the Koreans with the Palisade and the Telluride, those are all 100,000+ volume sellers here in the States. Then you have this CX-9 from Mazda that's definitely an outlier. So if you want something that's really good looking and unique in the 3-row crossover market, here's a CX-9 that really doesn't have any major glaring weaknesses other than some questionable interior design and trim appointments. So what is coming next for the Mazda CX-9? Well, it's either this year or next year that Mazda is bringing us a rear-wheel drive based all-wheel. I want to get into the torque real quick. There's speed limit. And I wasn't flooring it. That was probably like 80% throttle. But relatively soon, Mazda is replacing this, what's called the CX-9. It'll be wider, it'll be bigger, it'll have an inline six, mild hybrid. So your fuel economy and your power is going to go up at the same time over this turbo 4-cylinder. And then you're also potentially going to have a plug-in hybrid 4-cylinder, as Mazda has shown us a plug-in hybrid 4-cylinder coming to the rear-wheel drive based next generation of premium large Mazda products. We just don't know when that vehicle is coming out. We also don't know what it's going to cost. This top of the line CX-9 Signature all-wheel drive comes in at just under 50K. And with all those specs in the CX-9 coming out, it sounds like a BMW from Japan. And I cannot wait to share more information as we get it in the coming months about the new Mazda platform. But in the meantime, as we're waiting for that next generation of large Mazda vehicles, we still have an excellent CX-9 here, even though the interior design is a little questionable. The quality materials are excellent, and the comfort's pretty darn good. No, we don't have a pano roof. No, we don't have wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. We don't have vents in the third row, but the third row is kind of an afterthought in this vehicle anyways. But despite its minor shortfalls, the rest of the vehicle excels from how it drives, how it looks, how it feels. The comfort is there. But I can't wait to see your questions and comments down below about this niche 3-row crossover. The market's doing well. There are tons of other 3-row crossovers out there. The CX-9 kind of gets overlooked. People don't even think about it because you just don't see any on the streets, as they sell in such low volume compared to its mainstream competitors. But if you enjoyed today's coverage of the Mazda CX-9, hit the like button, subscribe for more Mazda news and reviews updates, especially since we're getting a heap of new Mazda information in the next year as they come out with the CX-50, the rotary range extender in the Mazda MX-30. We also have their large platform, rear-wheel drive based, all-wheel drive, inline six, all that good stuff coming in the next year or so. So definitely stay tuned for that. Catch you guys in the next video, and as always, peace out.